Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dota 2 Builds of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys top 5 meta builds to help you get started with new heroes in Dota 2. As always, a link to each of the builds is down in the description below, as is a link to my Twitch if you want to catch the action live. Today we're getting started with Position 1 Medusa. Medusa is one of those heroes that has a very consistent win rate across all points of MMR, and is a hero that is relatively beginner friendly if you're new to the carry position or to Dota in total. However, it's also worth mentioning that she's also seeing a lot of play in the pro scene, so she's a hero that you can turn to help win yourself some games. Her build is also one that is relatively kind of rock solid. It is one that is kind of tried, tested, and true, so to speak. You start with some Mystic Snake, focusing on getting that so you can lane more effectively, a value point in mana shield, and then you're going to focus on split shot later on to basically enable your farming in the jungle and to clear creep waves. With regards to items, you're taking as much stats as you can up front, going into Power Treads and to Dragon Lance. That gives you a lot of cheap stats, while also allows you to effectively kind of clear farm, and it gives you that added attack range, which is super beneficial for Medusa, especially since like the way you kind of deal with Medusa is you kite her, right? Into that you go Manta style, which is fantastic, into Scotty, which is kind of rock solid as well. These are all fantastic items for a Medusa. The Scotty really helps her to kind of lock down targets. It prevents them from kind of like escaping her kind of range. And Magnum Scepter basically makes Mystic Snake an absolute nightmare to deal with. From there, the last item in data list is kind of your call. If you're against someone like a Windranger or a PA, perhaps that's not a data list, it's a Monkey King Bar. If you're against a Faceless Void, it's probably going to be a Butterfly. That last item is all dependent on the game situation, so just bear that in mind when picking Medusa. With that being said as well, with regards to talents, these top three are pretty much standard. However, this first one, if you're against a right-clicking carry, you might want to consider going that 15% evasion. If you just want to do as much damage as you possibly can, farm faster, then take the 15 damage. However, it is up to you. Medusa has some variability in her build, but overall is an excellent carry in the current meta. When doing the builds of the week, I often consider that a lot of players that watch these guides and watch my channel in general are relatively new to the game. So heroes like Storm Spirit often represent a significant challenge. They're mechanically extremely complex and have a very high skill ceiling. With that being said, whether or not you're new to Dota, a hero like this can provide you with a lot of satisfaction once you start to fundamentally learn how powerful he is with his combos. So Storm Spirit's one of those heroes that a lot of players can turn to if they're looking for a high tier challenge in mid. He's also a hero that has a tremendous amount of viability at all points of MMR and in the pro scene. His build-up is one that has a lot of variability because of the way he's played. You're taking Static Remnant in order to kind of secure range creeps in the laning phase. You're going to be taking Overload because it is essentially free damage whenever you cast your spells. From there, you're taking a value point into Electric Vortex, which allows you to secure kills whenever possible. As a Storm Spirit, you want to be very active on the map. From there, right, with regards to itemization, you are focused on taking a little bit light up front on stats. You're going to be using the Aryan Branches in conjunction with your Tangos for regeneration. Getting into that bottle, you need a bottle as a Storm Spirit. Often taking an Infused Raindrop as well, depending on the lineup, but the added mana regeneration is great. Also, you're not very tanky, so it's very important that you're able to sustain through Magical Burst. Finally, your main kind of progression is Treads into Orchid. Once you have your Orchid, you're basically a killing machine. You start murdering everyone on the map, and you essentially snowball into Kaya, into Bloodstone, which really amplifies your ability to carry the game because you borderline become unkillable. With that being said, there are some progressions that are super awesome as well. Kaya Sanj, if you're against a lot of lockdown, like Shadow Shamans or Lions, his Magnum Scepter is one of the best in the game, although kind of greedy and usually comes after your BKB. Lincolns, if you're afraid of getting locked down by any particular hero, or if you have a single target like a Doom or something like that you want to kind of deal with. And Bloodthorn is obviously an extension item from Orchid. Regardless, Storm's a fantastic hero. He's one of those heroes that takes a lot of practice to get used to, but once you get a hang of him, you can solo carry games from position 2. A lot of people ask me, Alex, I'm interested in hard carrying games, but I don't want to play position 1 and 2 because I don't like the pressure. How can I hard carry games from the off lane? And I'm like, well, don't pick Faceless Void like you're thinking you should. Pick someone like Mars, someone who can do a tremendous amount of damage while also being an initiator in a proper position 3 for your team. Mars is unique in that sense. He has a tremendous amount of damage dealing capability, and this build revolves around that in order to amplify your ability to carry games from the off lane. Essentially what you're doing is you're taking God's Rebuke into Spear of Mars. Now you could take God's Rebuke at 3 as well, but generally speaking, a lot of pros do prefer to have that second point in Spear of Mars, especially during the laning stage, usually in tight quarters in the side lanes there, a lot of trees, and it's a good kind of way to secure a kill. Plus, you don't have that much damage yet, so God's Rebuke, not that useful, still useful, but it kind of scales very well into the late game. With that being said, let's talk about his itemization, because that's really important. Talent tree wise, you're going all towards God's Rebuke. If you want to carry from the offlane, you're building God's Rebuke. And what you're doing here is you're taking a ton of stats up front, a lot of strength. You can be super tanky, good last hit capabilities. You're rushing that Helm of Iron Will, which is going to get nerfed this next patch, but a ton of extra armor and HP regeneration into an armlet. Now, the reason why armlet is so important is because when you toggle the armlet on and then you God's Rebuke, you do a ton of extra damage to the enemy, okay? So it is like a huge burst of damage for someone like Mars. Into Soul Ring, he does have some mana issues, but the Soul Ring naturally builds from the starting items as well. Just be aware that the armlet does not give you that much health regeneration because it actually takes health away from you when it's active, so just bear that in mind. You're going to be going Phase Boost, which is exactly what Mars needs. Blink, so that you can initiate with your arena into a Deso. Now, once you get your Deso timing, your God's Rebuke with Desolator and with Armlet can basically two-shot some heroes, okay? It is like a huge amount of damage. It can basically destroy supports. And when you do your Arena of Blood, Spear, God's Rebuke combo with a Desolator, they're basically just dead regardless of who they are, into finally BKB so you can sustain later in the game. Now, he also has a ton of extension items, right? If you're against like a PA or something, or someone that's a right clicker, Heaven's Halbert's fantastic. It also gives you status resistance and evasion to help you survive a little longer. Yule Scepter is a great thing to kind of set up your Spear of Mars. Shiva's AC, these are all these great aura items. They just really benefit your team, especially as you move into the late game, because you're probably, once you finish all these offensive items, you'll probably need something defensive as well. But Mars, position 3, capable of carrying a game of Dota. Windranger is one of those heroes that provides a whole lot of flexibility. Although she's often played as a position 2 mid, she's also a fantastic position 4 support and is currently seeing a lot of play in the pro meta as a position 4 support. I actually did a complete beginner's guide to break down everything you need to know to learn about Windranger. I'll link it above if you're interested in a complete breakdown of how to play this awesome hero. Now, that being said, playing Windranger position 4 is a little unique and obviously very different in terms of your itemization than a mid Windranger. You are focusing in on win run early. This allows you to very effectively trade. What you can do is you're going to bait them to commit into trading with you. You're going to activate win run and basically get free pot shots on them, okay? From there, you're going to focus in on power shot. It just does so much damage. 250 damage. That's a lot of burst damage from a power shot. And so it allows you not only to secure range creeps, but it does allow you to basically kill fleeing heroes and secure some serious damage on your opponents. From there, a point into shackle shot, a value point, is really useful. That 2-second stun against a tree, especially during the laning stage, can be extremely valuable, especially in conjunction with power shot. You shackle, go on them, power shot them, and there's very few heroes that can actually survive that burst during the laning stage. That being said, main item progression, she really struggles with mana. You want to be in a situation where you're casting as many spells as you can, so a Null Talisman into a Ring of Basilius is often super valuable for a Windranger, especially as from the support, and then you go into Tranquil Boots. She is an intelligence hero, so over time, her mana becomes a non-issue, but as long as you ferry out some clarities every once in a while, it allows you to sustain your laning presence and your rotations on the map. Now, currently, the main item build is a core item in either Solar Crest, Vessel, Meme Hammer, whatever it is, and then you go into Agnum Shard, which is one of the absolute best in the game, into a Blink Dagger, so you can better position for shackle shots. With that being said, obviously, if you don't want to go with Solar Crest, Yule's, Force Staff, Glimmer, whatever the game calls for, you know, is great. Now, extension items include some kind of greedy stuff. Eggs, not necessarily the greediest item. It's still good on a support Windranger. However, Maelstrom, Lincoln's, BKB, MKB is like pure greed, but if you end up getting a ton of farm and you're against heroes where like you feel like you can kind of support the carry kind of push to the end of the game, then you can go something like an MKB, although you might get reported if you rush an MKB. It's very important you understand that as a Windranger, you have the capability of scaling very well, but you actually still want to be a proper support and utilize your skills properly. With DPC back in full swing, we're seeing a hell of a lot of Bane, and it's to no surprise. Bane is one of those heroes that's probably going to get nerfed in this next patch because he's just so damn good at laning, and he's just great. He's just a great hero. He has such a straightforward build. Like, his talents are straightforward. I mean, with the exception of the level 10, if you're against a lot of magic, you take this one. If you're against a lot of physical, you take this one. His skill build is like literally just this every single game. His item progression is pretty much just this every single game. He is extremely straightforward to play, extremely powerful in lane. Just people don't pick him. I don't know why. He has a relatively low pick rate at low MMRs. Newer players don't pick him. I don't know if they're scared of him or whatever it is, but Bane is so good right now. You've got to give him a shot. And honestly, Fiend's Grip can straight up just delete enemy carries at any point in the game. You basically trade your position 5 for their position 1 or 2. It is so good. Nightmare is a great save. It's a great tool at all points in the game. Like, he's just such a good hero that's not really being utilized. So if you're watching this and you're a support and you're like, wow, I lose the laning stage all the time, pick Bane. Play some Bane. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a very special thank you to all our wonderful subscribers. We'll see you in the next Dota 2 video.